Now, you've been listening to this man your whole life, but you probably didn't know it. From Barry White to Eric Clapton, from George Harrison to Elton John, Michael Jackson to Daft Punk. We've got Bob Dylan and Mariah Carey. There's Rod Stewart. There's Phil Collins. There's Whitney Houston. There's so many, many more as well. Probably thousands of others besides. This man has recorded, he's toured, and he's played with some of the greatest stars in the history of music across all genres. I'm delighted to welcome to VRP Rocks a bass player extraordinaire, Mr. Nathan East.
Thank you, VRP Rocks. You guys rock.
Thank you so much. Well, you certainly do with your back record. It's incredible the sort of people you've worked with over so many years. So thank you for joining me. Now, obviously, you've worked with such an illustrious group of people and you've crossed so many genres as well. You've worked with so many different people from different styles. But obviously, with a rock connection, we're going to stick to some of the more rockier names from your career. But I've got to start with your very early life. I mean, it's hard to believe just reading it, but you toured with Barry White when you were just 16. I mean, that's incredible. How did that all come about?
I know, and that kind of got the party started for like get a good suitcase,
Yeah.
because that was our band Power that he heard when we backed him up on one of those multi-artist shows, and he called us up to his office and hired the entire band on the spot. My brother was playing, my brother David was playing guitar, and all my friends from school. So next thing you know, we're at Madison Square Garden, in front of a packed arena playing with Barry White, the Apollo Theater, Kennedy Center, um, Cobo Arena in Detroit. I mean, it was like, and I'm 16. Go, what is going on? This is incredible.
It's absolutely insane. So talk me through how long you had, because obviously you knew who Barry White was. You knew his music, but in terms of playing with him, with rehearsing with him, with getting the music down and working out what songs are going to be played, I mean, how long was it between him saying, I want you guys to being on stage at like some Madison Square Garden?
Right. Well, that's then it's a process. The rehearsal and the conductor, and then every city we played in, you picked up the orchestra, so you had to go in there with them and run all the tunes. So it's like you rehearse in L.A., and getting up from zero to that. It's a few weeks of just going over the tunes, and he had a big catalog of hits too. So it was pretty exciting to be so young and going out on a big tour like that.
It sounds insane. I mean, talk me through, were you at school? Were you at college? Was it that sort of thing? I'm not really sure on the ages in America, but did you have to take time off, that sort of thing, to go and do this? Was that allowed?
Yeah, I did. I took a little bit time off. Fortunately, I graduated high school early, so within that a half a year, I got to you know take some time and go out on tour with him. And so it worked out perfectly.
That sounds crazy. Absolutely crazy. So from being in a band with your brother and your friends and things from school to being on stage with a global superstar. I mean, what did you learn from being around him and being on stage with him and seeing his presence and things like that?
Well, you learn a lot about how the whole machine works and how you learn a lot about life in general. When you're going on the thrust on the road with people and but it was very eye-opening to see that machine work. To be associated with somebody that just had so many hits and just was so successful at. And so for us, it was just like you're going to school. I always say I went to BWU, Barry White University, and couple times, I got to one of the times the conductor's plane was late, and so there's the orchestra there, and nobody was doing anything, and so I picked up the baton and conducted the Love Unlimited Orchestra for rehearsal. It was fantastic.
Fantastic indeed. So that's one heck of a place to start learning, isn't it, with someone like Barry White? So what happens from that point on? Obviously, you've got that on your CV. Do people just start phoning you up? I mean, what happens in terms of you becoming a name within the industry for session work and touring work?
Yeah, well, on Barry started calling me for his sessions, and on the sessions were people like Ray Parker Jr.,
Oh,
Lee
wow.
Ritenour, Wah Wah, all these great music. Gene Page was the arranger who arranged everything. So word spreads pretty quickly if they like you. And so, one thing leads to another. It's kind of it's a business of stepping stones.
Yeah.
And so I started getting some really good work in LA, like starting right around the beginning of 1980, end of 79.
And can you remember some of those first sessions? What was it like being in there on the recording sessions with some of these songs?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just amazing. And Barry would sing the part to you, like ecstasy when you lay down next to me. He'd come up and he'd say, "Okay, can you play boom, 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 beep?" So then you do that and sit there and just carve out that groove. And then he'd give the guitar players their parts, and then he'd like go down the line and sing everybody their parts. And this next thing you know, there's a hit. It was fantastic. And then from there, Gene Page, his arranger, started calling me. He called me for a Hertz rent-a-car jingle. you
Oh,
know,
yeah, yeah.
uh, I remember, and there was Lee Ritenour, and there was James Gatson on drums, and Sonny Burke on keys, and all these session guys. And I remember writing in my diary, Ray Parker Jr. I did a session with him. And this was beginning of 1980, and again, it just kind of snowballed from there. Quincy Jones and a lot of good people. Kenny Loggins gave me a call from the road. His bass player was sick, and he said, "I need somebody tomorrow. Can you get on a plane?" So they sent me the tape of the show, and I listened on the plane. And by the next day, I was playing it at sound check.
Wow.
Having the best time ever.
So how does something like that work then? Because obviously I'm not a musician, but hearing things like that, you get a call and the next day you're on the stage with a man that you've not really rehearsed with, you've not really practiced with, you've only listened to whatever he's going to be playing. So how does that work? Are you playing on the fly? Are you winging it as you go along?
Yeah, a little bit of winging it, but if they send me the live show, I studied it, and then you have a sound check. So sound check became a rehearsal, and my literally baptism by fire. You just jump thrown into the deep end, and being a fan of these guys helps
Yeah,
a lot too. So I knew a lot of the music anyway. This is it, and all these great songs. That began the start of a fun relationship. We recorded after that. We toured and recorded Footloose together, and a lot of fun songs.
incredible stuff. And I suppose the exuberance of youth as well. There's no fear, is there? You just do it.
Right, exactly. You don't have time for fear, and yeah, half the time it's like you don't realize that. Oh, wait, should I be afraid of this? Just in there having fun the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Quincy there, and we've got to bring up Michael Jackson at this point because obviously you were called for working with Michael, and you worked with Michael a few times. So talk to me about the first time you got to work with him and the call from Quincy.
Yeah, and the first call came right a day after that Kenny Loggins tour. I got on the plane, and the next day I got the call from Quincy. Oh, can you come do an album we're doing called Off the Wall? And I'm going, oh man, I'm on tour, so I couldn't do that. And then he called me. The next album was Bad, and you get the call. You go over there, and there Michael Jackson steps out of a, he steps out of a Mercedes, looking like he just filmed a video with the red leather,
Oh
and
wow,
then
in full
the,
costume.
the full costume and glasses on. But we go in the studio, and everybody's he's telling jokes, and we're having they always had a chef on board that cooked some great meals. And then when you got in there to make the music, it was nothing but business. Just like everybody, a room full of geniuses, giants. Just all for one cause. Making this incredible record.
Fantastic. And what was he like in the studio? Was he really hands-on? Because I spoke with Guy Pratt, who worked with Madonna, and he said that she was on top of everything. She knew every little sound that was going on, even when she was singing. So was Michael the same? Was he across everything that everyone was doing?
Pretty much the same, and to have a producer like Quincy Jones, who was his mouthpiece. He knew how to communicate to us, in hey, in bar 13, that A flat should be a G. So to have Quincy and Michael, I mean, that was an incredible combination of musicality and wisdom, and just understanding about the whole big picture.
Incredible, absolutely phenomenal. And to work on an album like Bad as well, and the many, many millions that that went on to sell is just absolutely insane, really. Just someone else to touch on quickly. One of the biggest songs of the 80s for me, Philip Bailey and Phil Collins together. I know you worked with the guys a lot, but Easy Lover, it was one of the biggest hits. It was number one all over the world. It won awards, it won this, that, and the other. And you're down as a co-writer on that. So explain to me how that track came together. What do you remember from the sessions and the recording sessions of that one?
Yeah, and again, that was my first trip to London, and we were at a studio called Townhouse in right in the middle of London, and we were there for 2 weeks. And by the end of the second week, I think it was a Thursday, Philip said, "Wow, we still, I think, need that undeniable single that the record label will say this is what we're going to put out." And so just went over to the piano and started kind of fooling around with those chords and Phil started singing a little bit, and next thing you know, in about 20 minutes we had enough to say, let's see if we could put this down, see what it feels like, and then we'll come back in and record it tomorrow. So it was the evening, we laid this track down, and the next morning we came back to listen to it, and everybody said, "Man, that sounds pretty good. I like that," and then so that was the track. And Phil Collins was working on a couple of lyrics. He had "Choosy Lover," but he was singing along. And when I heard, the way his voice sounded with Philip, I suggested, I said, maybe you guys should do this as a duet. Okay. And so they went in and put the vocals on, and literally that's kind of how it came together. It was a lot of fun. And next thing you know, I came home and I heard it on 3 radio stations at once.
And what did you make
Really.
to the reception of that then? Because, like I said, it was a worldwide number one, wasn't it? Basically, an award winner and things like that. So it must have been great to see your name attached to something like that as well.
It's pretty exciting, I must say. And we'd go on and establish relationships that would last, for another 30, 40 years too, and tour and record together. And so it was very exciting. At that point too, both, Philip Bailey being in Earth, Wind and Fire, one of the greatest groups ever, and then Phil Collins he was getting a solo career off the ground too. He'd been in Brand X and Genesis, and so the week that we recorded that song was his first number one with "Against All Odds," and I remember it was on the Billboard charts, and we were up there. Yeah, here's a toast, number one record. And then of course he would just go on and dominate the 80s and 90s, and still to this day he's one of my favorite drummers and favorite people.
That's nice to hear. I spoke with Leland last year as well, Leland Sklar, obviously, and he worked with Phil for many years, and he always says that Phil was one of the nicest people he's ever worked with. So it's nice to hear you echo that sentiment.
Absolutely. I mean, his humanity is beyond anything I've seen. It's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone else you've worked with for many years as well is Eric Clapton. We have to mention Eric. Now, just touching on one thing in particular, MTV Unplugged, the recording that Eric did in the band in 1992 is one of the best, one of the biggest MTV Unpluggeds going. I mean, what do you remember from that specific show itself? And talk me through that performance.
Yeah, well, we rehearsed out in Bray Studios outside of London, and it was sort of like, hey, let's put a different twist on these songs, Layla and a lot of these songs. And the MTV Unplugged situation was starting up, so it was truly unplugged. I mean, upright bass, and he played acoustic guitar, and he said, if it's going to be called Unplugged, we're going to be unplugged, and so you know handpicked audience of mainly friends, and just a couple hundred people, I think, around the studio. Took a couple hours to make, 2.5 hours, but a lot of fun just to reimagine those songs. But nobody could have imagined the way the world would receive that record, and I think it sold 30 million albums or something like that. Unheard of.
Yeah. Absolutely insane. And Tears in Heaven really stands out as well, doesn't it? You can feel the emotion in that track. It was undeniable. And did you
Yeah,
feel a kind of, I don't know, a different energy in the room when you were playing that one?
absolutely. To this day, we play that, and your heart breaks first of all, for what the song is about. But the song the song plays us, you know, we just stand there and it's really something very special. There's a special spirit to this day that comes with that song, playing that song.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, your association with Eric goes back decades. I mean, you've played together, you've recorded together, toured together, and everything like that for years and years and years. So what's Eric like to be around? What's he like to be in the studio with? Because we all know how good he is on the guitar, but what's he like as a person to work with, to make music with?
Oh no, he's fantastic. He's been like a brother now, you know, over the years, you know, I think it's more than 4 decades since we
Wow.
first recorded together. You know, I think Behind the Sun, which is 1983, you know, so and he's just a generous, wonderful you know, loving English gentleman. You know, and we have a lot of laughs on tour, you know, a lot of good meals together and a lot of music, you know, over the years. That's really just uh, brought us very close and down the road a long time. I couldn't be more grateful. You know, where matter of fact, he's gonna turn 80.
It's insane, isn't it?
What? I mean, how did that happen? And then still in great shape, still plays great. And it's right after 80, we're going to go over to Tokyo Budokan and play 8 shows, spread out over, you know, spread out over the month of April. And then in May, we'll be back at the Royal Albert Hall for some shows and
Yeah.
around Europe, and then around some shows in the States in the fall. So, I mean, please, Lord, let him keep going because we're having the best time ever.
Phenomenal stuff. So how did you two come together? How did you first start to work with him?
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was fate because when I was working with Philip Bailey and Phil Collins over in England, we went out to a pub out in Guildford, and Phil Collins introduced me to Eric out there. You know, so we
Oh,
said
wow.
hello there. Yeah, and then one other kind of informal introduction. But then I played Live Aid with Kenny Loggins in Philly, and when I came off the stage, there was Eric on the side of the stage saying, "Hey, man, sounded great. Let's go hang out." You know, and you know. I think it was fate. We were bound to work together, and it's been nothing but a joy ever since. You know, for all these years.
Phenomenal stuff. Well, we've talked all about the people you've worked with, and we could go on and on for days, but let's get to 2014 and you releasing your first solo album. That seems like a long time in the making. Is it something that you've always wanted to do?
Yeah, you always kind of have something to say. You have a collection of songs and favorites, but you know, I've been very lucky to be blessed with a lot of work. You know, so most of my career I was busy. And although I aspired to make a solo record, there just wasn't enough time. You know, and weren't enough hours in the day. But finally, around that time, 2013, 2014, got together and my buddy Chris Giro, they started a label at Yamaha called Yamaha Entertainment Group, and it just was a natural progression. I've been playing Yamaha basses for you know, well over 30 years. So we jumped in, they signed me, and we went in the studio and had a lot of fun. Made a few records so far together.
And it was a bit of a role reversal as well, wasn't it? Because you got a lot of your high profile friends to come and play with you, likes of Eric, obviously, Michael McDonald, I think Stevie Wonder was on there, Ray Parker Jr., who you've mentioned, David Page, Vinnie Colaiuta, they're all on there as well, many more. Was it fun assembling people to come and play with you this time rather than the other way around?
No, well, absolutely. I mean, it's a big family, and we work together a lot every day. So it's very easy to say, hey, by the way, we're making a record. Matter of fact, David Page and Ray Parker Jr. both they were down the street and heard we were down in the studio and came and crashed the session. Oh, we're playing on this. You know? So it was just very special that way, and to be able to, you know, pick up the phone and ask Stevie Wonder to play on your record and have him do it is, come on, really? It's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. And it must have been great to see the reception it got as well. I mean, a wonderful
Yeah.
reception from everyone, critics and music fans alike, and 2 Grammy Award nominations to boot.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was it's an exciting, it still continues to be an exciting ride because you know, here we do something that we're young and I like this. I'm playing music. I love what I do. And the next thing you know, you're going doing it all around the world, traveling, and I mean, what's better?
Absolutely. And the album also featured, for the first time, the recording of your son Noah, who was 13 at the time, and that brings us nicely to kind of where you are now, and your son Noah, who's a bit older and now a vastly experienced studio and touring musician himself. But the two of you have teamed up as father, son, and you've got a new album together as well, haven't you?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I just happened to have a one of the first copies that's just come in the mail, and we I couldn't be happier to be making music with my son, and he's come a long way. We just went over to his original piano teacher and told her about the record, and she was thrilled. And we just done some dates over in Germany and in Europe as father-son duo and had the best time ever, and the reception was amazing. And just another thing to be excited about now for me, after all these years in the music business, and then to get to tour with my son, and he's doing really great. So uh, I'm totally excited.
Absolutely. And be a proud dad for a moment. Tell me about Noah. Who's he working with and what's he done?
Yeah, he's actually over in he spent the about the past month over in Europe touring with the Cream of Clapton tribute band,
Wow.
who has Will Johns, Eric's nephew, and a few of the people that are sort of tied into Cream, and so the Cream of Clapton tribute band. And they've asked me to sit in with them a couple times, and we have a good time just playing all those fun songs that we've played. Eric's catalog is vast, and so he's been doing that, and then a couple things around town, and I'm really just proud of what he's grown into as a musician and a person.
And did he stand a chance? Was he always going to be a musician with a father like you? Is it something that you got not drilled into him, but something that you encouraged from a young age?
Yeah, it's funny if you let something happen. I think it happens more naturally than if you say you have to practice today. So, and he took to it really. He really took to it, and then all the guys were always coming over, and Greg Gaines and Bob James. They were both godfathers to him, but all the guys, David Page and my friends would come over and show him stuff, and I think he had the benefit of a lot of that, and just took to it. I mean, how could you not love music?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a bit more about this record then. What can we expect from the record?
Yeah, so there's a couple. Matter of fact, Noah has written a couple of the songs on the record that are some of my favorites, and of course we did invite a couple of friends too to join and collaborate. So Mr. Clapton has graciously come and played on a couple songs, and we just have again, I think a collection of music that we really enjoy playing, and we've already been playing some of it live, and it's turning out great. I love it.
Fantastic stuff. And as we
Mainly,
saw, it was
mainly a jazz. It's a jazz record, but Mary Clayton came and sang a song, and Billy Valentine and Hubert Laws played flute on it. So it's uh, it's just I think a lot of really good music.
fantastic stuff. And as we said, we saw a sneak copy of it there. So when is it going to be available, and how can people pre-order it now?
So it's coming out on April 18th. So coming up here soon. And they can pre-order it by going on to my website, nathaneast.com. And we'll put a link up there to order it. But we're really excited.
Perfect stuff. So, as you said, you're keeping busy. You're going to be coming over to Japan and then back to Europe with Eric as well. So, what else have you got in the pipeline? Because you're always keeping busy, aren't you?
Yeah, we have some more father-son duo shows scheduled. We're going to be doing the Laguna Festival of Arts here locally in the area, and we've been asked now to come back to Baden-Baden to be artists in residence at their one of their festivals over there. So we've got that booked, and some of the places that we've played already have invited us back. So we're excited about that.
Excellent stuff. So, loads to look forward to. Well, Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you and hearing just some of your stories because you've got thousands more. But thank you so much for joining us here on VRP Rocks.
It's a pleasure. Cheers, everybody.